Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovering Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-Drift.
Contact, nice to be in orbit.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Good evening. We are broadcasting all the way from Forest Tower Studios. I'm Joe Roop, and this is Lighting the Void, coming to you from the Great American South. It is Tuesday night, October the 23rd, and the moon is all the way full. It's a gorgeous night here in Arkansas, and it's going to be an interesting evening as we kick this night off tonight. The Reluctant Messenger, Tales from Beyond Belief, an ordinary person's extraordinary journey into the unknown, with author Candice Sanderson. This is, I just have been reading this book, and this is going to be something you're going to love. We are live as well on lightingthevoid.com, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM, that is at thefringe.fm, and on all the syndicates, including TalkStream Live, TuneIn, Spreaker, iTunes Radio, all those places. The call to listen line is 701-719-3971. If for any reason you lose your data, I want to say thank you all to you who have donated, all of your support, your shares, your likes, your subscribes, your feedback, your reviews, everything that you guys have done. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And if any of you happen to hit that $1.6 billion mega jackpot, you can throw actually it was Mega Millions is what it is. I'm sorry. You can throw me $20 over here on PayPal. Good grief, man. 1.6 billion, right? My God, that's a lot of cash. I think the cash payout's $913 million. I don't know if anybody won, but they're saying it's going to, if nobody won tonight, it's going to get to $1.6 billion. This show is brought to you by Audible. You can go to audibletrial.com/LTV radio, and you can actually pick up the book that we're going to be talking about tonight for free, including an Audible original. You can get that as well with it. You can go to the website, grab a t-shirt, use the Audible link, the Amazon link. Some of you have done that. I really appreciate it. We got our first Audible check in the mail. It wasn't very large, but it was good to see one. And that means some of you guys have been doing it, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And follow, like, subscribe. Everything is Lighting the Void on Facebook, Twitter. The hashtag is LTV Radio. And I still haven't gotten the newsletter out. I know some of you guys have been bugging me. That's crazy. Like, you know, the newsletter is kind of more of an intimate thing between me and you guys, and some of the stuff that I share every now and then I'll throw an audio clip in there. So I guess, you know, I owe it to you. You put your name and email in there, so I'll get that out. I have to by the end of the week, the end of the month for sure. So let's get this thing going. I'm excited to talk about this tonight. I'm excited to present my guest tonight for the broadcast is Candice Sanderson, who's an intuitive psychologist, whose book, The Reluctant Messenger, Tales from Beyond Belief, is what we're going to be talking about tonight. That's on the table. We're going to discuss what happened to her and some of the messages that she received. And like I said, she's an intuitive psychologist. She's also been a participant at the Monroe Institute, and you can check out the website at CandiceSanderson.com. I will include all the show notes. Candice, thank you so much for coming on Lighting the Void. I really appreciate you coming out.
Joe, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and travel with you on this journey.
Me too. And, you know, I know you haven't done that many radio shows, which I'm really excited about because I like to get to know somebody before everybody else has. So this is kind of a first for me, too. I know you've only done like one or something, so that's great. But can I ask you real quick before we get into your book and what happened to you? You've been to the Monroe Institute a few times, right? Like, you've been to the Monroe Institute frequently or unfrequent. How many times have you been?
Oh gosh, I've been probably 8 or 9 times. You know, I just recently retired as a psychologist. I finally hung up my hat on June 1st. But working in a school system, I always had my summers off. And one thing I always tried to do during the summer was plan a trip to the Monroe Institute. And those of us who go there fondly call it TMI. Mm-hmm. And the Monroe Institute is just, I can't say enough good things about it. It's a place where you can just spend an entire week expanding your consciousness and learning to just appreciate the world for more than what our physical senses can show us. It's a great place.
Did you come out of your body by any chance? I'm just curious.
Well, I did take one program that's called OBE for Out of Body Intensive by Bill Buellman. And what you do is you learn to step outside of your physical body. And once I took that program, I realized that I had been having OBE experiences actually before then. I just didn't really identify it as such, but it's just the best place in the world. It's in right outside Charlottesville, Virginia, and I just highly recommend it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I can't wait to go. Never been. It's like the epitome of everything for me. Egypt and the Monroe Institute. There's a couple places I want to go. You know.
Well, you won't be disappointed.
I don't think I will. I'd actually like to go with a few friends and have that experience. Like I was telling you before the show, I read Robert Monroe's books like once a year, every year. It is everything on this show, actually. Not everything, but close to it. The title of your book is really interesting, right? So there's so many people that have titles like The Messenger, this or that. You titled your book The Reluctant Messenger. And if you look up the word reluctant, it just means unwilling and hesitant, maybe a little disinclined. So I'm thinking these things that happened to you, were they hard to believe at first?
Well, first of all, let me correct you. I really didn't entitle my book The Reluctant Messenger. That was a message that was given to me by the messengers. And the messengers actually said, when you write your book, and I'm thinking, what? I'm not planning on writing a book. That was the furthest thing from my mind. But I was told I would write a book. I said, well, what's it going to be called? What's the title? And it just dropped into my lap, so to speak. The Reluctant Messenger, Tales from Beyond Belief. Now, the reluctant part was certainly true. Well, maybe not reluctant as much as like, I was like more like kicking and screaming. No, don't make me do this. I don't want to do this. But the part about Tales from Beyond Belief, so much of what has happened to me, Joe, are experiences that are beyond most people's belief systems. And this is one thing that I've learned in working with different messengers, is that you have to get yourself out of the way. You have to get your belief system out of the way, and then you open up to messages that are around you. The subtitle to the book is An Ordinary Person's Extraordinary Journey into the Unknown. And that part is so true. I mean, there is nothing special about me. I am just an average person from Paducah, Kentucky, who now lives in Naples, Florida. I, would go to work every day. Everything I did was normal and average. And if these kind of experiences could happen to me, they could happen to anyone.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me, as I started reading it, when you said I was taking dictation of kind of Neil Donald Walsh's book, when he had Conversations with God, that book. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book, but I don't want to tell everybody what happened. Can you just tell us what happened to you?
Well, I'm not real sure how or why, but one morning I was driving to work. This was in August of 2013. I always get to work early. You know, you can get more stuff done when no one's there. I was taking it's like a 10, 12-minute drive to work, and all of a sudden I got this message. And it was so bizarre because I knew it wasn't from me. But it was a message about a flower. And it was like when you look at a flower, you know that it is at its peak when it's open. And a flower is a flower, so they took the word flower and hyphenated it. A flower is a flower. And humans, too, can be flowers of energy. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, what is this? And the message continued. There was this, analogy about a plant. It's when it takes its roots deep into Mother Earth. And back then, I did not use terms like Mother Earth. But then the flower would then ascend toward Father Sky. Again, not words in my vocabulary. And when the plant is in perfect alignment with Source, it produces a flower. And then the message continued, humans too can, if they get rid of their blockages, if they stay grounded, they can open to potential. And I'm thinking, this is bizarre. This is, these are words that I typically don't use. Where is this coming from? And as being a psychologist, my first thought was, okay, Candy, that's it. You've lost it. This is a hallucination. Right. And I thought, no, it isn't. I didn't have any signs. But while I'm debating this in my head, I didn't do anything about it. And that allowed the energy to continue and the energy to flow. And then in my mind's eye, I saw this picture, reminded me of, an old science, back in 8th grade when you'd watch, a film with time-lapse photography, and I saw this little seed sprout. I saw a plant grow up, and then a bud form, and this beautiful yellow flower form.
Were you driving when you saw this?
I'm driving to work. It's in my mind's eye.
I remember that part.
And I'm perfectly lucid and able to drive. I mean, there's not much traffic out, but anyway, it's like no different from just all of a sudden having a thought that you need to call your uncle or something like that. It was just a thought that came into your mind. But then I just saw this, and I thought, what on earth is this? And it really didn't stop there. Once I got to work, I loaded up my stuff, and I'm the second car in the parking lot. I'm walking to the building to unlock my office door, and all of a sudden my attention is called to this royal poinciana tree. And I've passed this tree 100 times, never thought anything of it. And all of a sudden today, it's like this tree called me over to it. And I start looking at it really for the first time ever. And I realized this tree was not just a tree, but it was as much alive as I was. And then my eyes kind of drew to this unopened bud. And I realized, oh my goodness, whatever this was that just happened to me with the message about the flower, this was only further, indicating to me this is something you need to pay attention to. And that's how it all started.
So it's like a door opened for you, and you had to accept it or not, pretty much.
Right. And, I first thought, oh, good grief, what's going on? What is this? But then I realized, this was awesome. All of a sudden I'm getting these beautiful messages. There's nothing negative about it. Very positive messages. And I thought, I like this. This is good. This is good. And then I started this pattern of getting into the car every morning. I would put my seatbelt on. I would turn on my recorder on my iPhone, and the messages would just start flowing. And sometimes the messages came, a lot of times they came like in dictation. They would say, new paragraph, blah, 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 strike that if I made a mistake, and they'd give me the correct wording. And it was just, I had kind of stepped out of the way because I was busy driving to work and paying attention, but this other part of me just started receiving messages, and I knew exactly where to put punctuation, and I just recorded it, and later in the day I would get home from work and I would transcribe it.
Did they tell you?
Fascinating.
That is very fascinating. Did they tell you who were they? Like, did they ever hint to who you were talking with?
They did later, and initially I never asked. It just didn't register with me to ask who this was. And the very first message actually came from, for lack of a better term, an energy group that refer to themselves as the Muses Within. And they are the ones that told me I would be writing a book and that they would help me with it. And I thought, thank goodness, because I certainly didn't have any intentions of writing a book. I also had messages from, there were just so many messages. I didn't always ask who the messengers were.
Right.
I had messages from angels, from different ascended masters. I had messages from star systems. It was just all over the place. But the messages were always very positive, and they always gave me pause to think about how I could reframe things in my life and, make things better.
Last week, I had a discussion with Stephen Hawley about the brain. And I'm just wondering, because I'm curious about it, the difference between consciousness and the brain, and is consciousness located in the brain? Did these messengers tell you anything about the human brain?
Well, that's interesting that you ask. In one of my chapters, I can't even think of which one right now, but they talked about how the brain is like a radio station, and the only thing the brain does is tune into different frequencies. And there's a variety of strengths, depending on the type of message that comes in. And one thing that I found interesting is I was given a lot of information that was absolutely new to me, and then later I would look it up and the information would be verified. But the information shared with me about the brain operating solely as like an FM radio station made a lot of sense to me. And then I saw a lot of I found a lot of places on the internet that verified that. But the true essence, your true consciousness, I was told pretty much comes from the heart, not from the brain, that we need to bring the energy from the brain down to the heart. Living through the heart is what connects us to energy fields around us, which connects us to consciousness.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I'm on to this too, like the brain as a receiver type thing. Last week he was talking about how there were some studies where the brain wasn't even there and it was still functioning fully. So it makes sense that it's an antenna. Now, I'm a little bit more curious, just a little bit about the message itself. It was a good question from the chat room. Kurt's wanting to know in the Spreaker chat, were they voices in your head, or did you get impressions or visions, or all the above?
All of the above. When I would get the dictation, it was very specific, like a voice in my head, but I mean, I certainly never heard it through my ears. What I learned to do was to stretch my physical senses and allow them to expand beyond what we typically use in our day-to-day waking state. It's more like, if you're in a dream, some crazy things might happen, but while you're in the dream, I mean, you might walk through a wall or you might be floating in the air, but during the dream, it makes sense. You don't question it. Well, you can kind of bring that down to the everyday physical reality and learn to just stretch your senses. So I would hear messages clear enough where I could dictate, and I would say, new paragraph, it is the blah, 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 parentheses, period, blah, blah, blah. So it was specific enough where I actually had the words come into my awareness. Did I hear them with my physical ear? No. There were other times when I would get like a complete download, just a computer download all at once. And I could sit down at the computer or dictate it, and I could sit for 15 minutes and the words would just flow on the computer screen. And it wasn't like automatic writing, because I was certainly aware of what I was writing down, but they weren't my words. But it wasn't as specific as when I would get the dictation. And then sometimes there was just a knowing. It was much more subtle, and I just knew information. I could start reading energy in a room, and I could pick up events that had happened before, and I couldn't explain how or why, but once the door opened to this unknown, or this door to some mysterious world, I started talking. And when I started talking and sharing with people, I started getting this validation. And with each validation, I realized what I was receiving was pretty accurate.
I got you. Okay.
And it's like I couldn't have made this up. For example, one time I had this person come to me as a messenger, and she was just a lovely presence, and she gave me her name, and she said it was Kuan Yin. Now, I'm from Paducah, Kentucky. We didn't study anything. I knew nothing about Buddhist goddesses. Well, Kuan Yin is a very well-known Tibetan Buddhist goddess of love and compassion, and in that religion, almost or probably revered just like Mother Mary is in the Christian and the Catholic religions. Well, okay. Joe, I never heard of her in my life, yet she comes to me and tells me her name, and I'm thinking, wow, where did that come from? But it's basically learning to put your physical body aside and use your heart, use your energy body to receive information that stretches what our physical senses could share with us. And that's really how I got the messages.
Well, sometimes,
by being open.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like I'm, our thoughts, like if you're alone, right, and you're by yourself and you just start thinking, every now and then, like I'll have a thought that I have no clue where it came from.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I'm like, what is that? I wouldn't think that. That's not me. Is
exactly.
that something that we should be paying attention to?
Yes. And when I got the messages about the brain operating, like a radio station, they gave me examples, and one is like when a thought drifts into your awareness, and it's so gentle and so subtle that you think you thought about it. You know, oh, what about this? Or, yeah. And then the next level is something, you know, where you move up levels until something just like pops into your awareness, and you say, where did that come from? And in that case, they said there is, you know, like an energy system or a spirit or whatever word you want to use that's to indicate a non-physical presence that is trying really hard to get your attention. And it comes at you with such force that it seems to, quote, pop into your awareness. And you recognize that. Where did that come from? And when that happens, that's a real sign to really take a deep breath and take a look at the message or the thought and realize this is, you know, is this something that's coming from a source that I really need to pay attention to? Is this a message that someone or something is trying to give me? But when it comes through forcefully, it seems like someone on the other side is really trying hard to get that message to you.
Is that like when deja vu happens? Sometimes I wonder about that because that's a weird mystery to me.
You know, it is, and some people say it's just like a hiccup in the brain where all of a sudden you think you've experienced something before, but anything when it has to do with the brain and your feelings and, you know, where did this come from, I just think it's important to pay attention to it and see what it means for you. You know, is there a pattern to it? Are you getting more messages or more deja vus on a certain subject? Or does it happen during a certain time? You know, there's that twilight time that occurs quite often right when you're getting ready to wake up, but you're not quite awake yet. And there's like those magical moments where you're actually, your spirit during dreaming, etc., has traveled outside of your physical body, but you're not quite awake yet. And those are magical times where you can take a look and say, what's going on? But are you having deja vu moments during that time? Are you having them is there a pattern? Are you having them in a certain place? If you're having them in a certain place, then maybe you need to spend more time in that place and see if you can pick up more information. So it's fun just to play with.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I'm thinking of sometimes that's happened. I'm sure that's kind of happened to all of us a little bit. And you know, when I try to explain things like divination to people, there's no way in the world I can prove it to people, right? Like when I say divination, I mean anything from astrology to tarot, rocks, whatever you want, whatever. I do believe what you're saying, that there is something that's trying to communicate with us all the time. And I've had scientists talk to me about this. I've had Laird Scranton's discuss this with me. That, I mean, it can't sit in front of us and speak English. So it has to speak to us in certain ways, like symbols. And symbols are something that you saw a lot of, right?
Right. And a lot of it, to me, everything is energy. And I actually put a quote in my book from Tesla. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And what are symbols but some sort of vibration? You know, we're so limited because of our 5 physical senses, but there's a whole world outside of us that we can't see, but it still exists. We can't hear, but it still exists. And through energy can be manipulated so that when we're driving down the road, we can look up and we can see multiple numbers on license plates or on billboards, or you know, at a certain time you glance at your clock and it's always 11:11. But those kind of things can be manipulated. It's energy that can be manipulated to help give us some like a guidepost. Why are you getting these numbers? What were you just thinking of? You can ask for a sign, and then all of a sudden a sign will come. How does this happen? Well, just appreciate that it does happen and try to find out what the message is behind it. Wayne Dyer used to talk about coincidences, and so many people will think that a coincidence is just something that's haphazard, that's meaningless, like, oh, what a coincidence. But Wayne Dyer used to say, if you think about the word coincidence, its root word is coincide. Mm-hmm. In geometry, if two angles coincide, they are a perfect match. So when I see a coincidence, I realize that's a perfect match for me. It's a sign for me. I'm thinking about something, and then, whoop, coincidence, there's a little light that shows me I'm on the correct path, that my life's journey is coinciding with this path at this time. So a coincidence will coincide with what the perfect match is for you. So that's another way that's another sign. It's just very important to pay attention to signs that go beyond the physical senses, or realize that if you do see something, hear something, and it's a little out of the ordinary, delve into a little bit deeper, maybe not necessarily with your brain and analyze it, but with your heart. Take a deep breath, think about what it is, then think about what kind of impression you get. And that way you can start, guiding yourself on this, what might seem like a nebulous path, but before long you realize you're being guided to your greater purpose.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break here, but we're going to get into some of the subjects that the messengers did tell Candice. Now, the book has extreme detail about all of the stuff we're going to be talking about tonight, but we're going to get into some more questions and answers from the messengers, talk a little bit more with Candice. We'll be right back after these words.
To Lighting the Void Radio.
The truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM.
This is Elle. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing his journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
From Studio 303, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News for The Fringe FM, bringing light to the stories that surround us. Another man shares an encounter with a dinosaur bird. A Goshen, Indiana man says he and a group of friends came across an unidentified flying animal that resembled a pterodactyl with a wingspan of approximately 12 feet. The eyewitness, a 39-year-old professional trainer who provided his full name and contact information but asked to remain anonymous, sent the following report to Cryptozoology News. Quote, I just read your article about the dinosaur-winged creature a man saw, and that brought back some interesting memories. We were taking a night hike to a local dam. It was my second year college at Goshen College back in the year 2000. I was with a few people and a friend of mine who lived within a 3-minute walk to the dam. We always liked to take night hikes, especially on full moon nights. This was around early to mid-September, and we could remember the moon being super big and bright. The dam area has a long walk to the edge where the waterfall flows over into a smaller part of the Elkhart River. There's another part that goes into the wooded trail section down below. You can take some steps down this rocky area down to where the dam falls and flows into the river. In that area, there's a lot of vegetation and whatnot. A lot of people use that area for fishing and just hanging out. But on this night, we only made it up to the upper part where the waterfall drops off. Not even a minute getting into the edge of the falls, we heard this loud rumbling noise where the rocks were at. It sounded as if something was moving the rocks around. All of a sudden, we see this dinosaur-looking creature come flying upwards from the area. It was dark, but we could still see it in the moonlight. We knew it wasn't a stork or any other type of bird because we were close enough to feel a huge gust of wind coming from the creature as it took off. The sound of the flaps from the wings sounded like something from the Jurassic Park movie. However, it was not the scariest part of the two flaps into the air. We heard the brush down below, which connects the woods, move around. And then we heard the loudest boom. Someone shot a shotgun at it. We took off running as fast as we could. We ran around 100 feet before we could see the large creature crash into a tree across the lake. We ended up running back to my friend's house, and not even 3 minutes later, we heard cop sirens heading to the area. The next day, we went to the other side of the dam where we think the creature had landed, and we didn't find anything. We found a bunch of huge broken tree limbs, and that was it. No blood, nothing. The other odd part was there was an old man that was walking the dog in the area. He stopped by us and looked up and said, "You saw it as well, didn't you?" We said, "Saw what?" And he said, "The flying thing." "Yeah," we said. And I asked him if he had seen it before. And he said, "I've seen a lot of things in my time I can't explain. Some things you don't want to mess with, others simply just want to be left alone. And this is the second kind." He said it's never harmed anyone or anything that he knows of, and the creature was big enough to carry us off if it wanted to. We asked him about who was shooting at it. He said there are a lot of others who have seen it too, but who knows what their agenda was with it, probably fame from killing it. This story was posted at cryptozoologynews.com. And that wraps it up for another edition of the Stranger Than Fiction News, right here on The Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt. Stick around for more Lighting the Void with your host, Joe Roop.
This is Jason Lindgren from Crow 777 Radio, and you can hear us 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday night here on The Fringe FM.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass if you're listening to KTLK's The Fringe FM. Shithead.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. We're here with author Candice Sanderson. We're speaking about her book, The Reluctant Messenger, Tales from Beyond. That is, I want you guys to know in this book there are several, this stuff is, I've just started reading it myself. And so this stuff is detailed, verbatim, a lot of these messages. So it's not just like general. We're talking generalities tonight, of course, but, it's in detail in the book, and it's fantastic. By the way, Candice, just out of curiosity, because I haven't even gotten halfway through it, what are some of the subjects that the messengers gave you? Like, what are the things they revealed to you, as for example?
Oh, there were so many subjects. By the time I was ready to put this together in a book, I had accumulated like almost 200 pages of typed single-space messages. And the messengers helped me figure out, what kind of chapters, what kind of topics, because the topics covered everything. I mean, I learned about the cosmos. I learned about gravity wells, singularities, the Big Bang. I learned about ascended masters, just like I mentioned before break about Kuan Yin. Never had heard of her before, and yet she came to me. I had messages from star systems. I had a lot of messages like a medium when, people have passed away and they came to me. I had a discourse on the brain and how it works. I also got information about time, complete with illustrations on a different way to look at time, how time actually functions. But what I found out is I was able to pick up on energy in rooms and in places. For example, there's I live in Naples, Florida. In Fort Myers, about 30 miles north of me, there's a place called the Church of Spiritual Light. It's like a all faith, no faith, all denominational, no denominational church. And a friend of mine told me that they had Reiki, which is, a form of energy work, healing, and crystal bowls, which, they use crystal bowls also for healing, that they had a meditation that had both Reiki and crystal bowls. And he said, come on, let's go up. It's great. So I went with him and another one of my friends. We go into this room. They're just getting ready to start. And so we all are laying down on cots, and there's background music playing. And all of a sudden, I hear this boom, 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 boom. And I'm thinking, wow, all of a sudden the music changed. And I heard a message that said, follow the beat of the heartbeat of Father Sky. And then they were actually fading the music so that they could start the crystal bowls. But this took me on a different path. And although the crystal bowls were playing, I saw this vision in my mind's eye. And in the center of the room, I saw this energy swirling, and this vortex opened. And in came a whole group of Native Americans, and they referred to themselves as the ancestors. They went to the back of the room and stood. The portal was still spinning. In came a smaller number of Native Americans, and they told me that they were the wisdom keepers. They were the council of elders, and they went to the back of the room. That portal was still spinning, and all of this is in my mind's eye. Everyone else is laying down listening to these crystal bowls while people are giving Reiki, and this huge, experience is going on inside my brain, inside my head. Then came angels. So they're all in the back of the room. The portal opens again, and Joe, I couldn't believe it. Where on earth did this come from? In comes this newborn calf. It was a buffalo calf. It was solid white, had wobbly little legs, milky blue eyes, pink around. It was so vivid. Pink around, it's the eyelids on his nose and around his ear. And then comes a beautiful Native American woman, and she speaks. And she said, in order for healing to occur, and after all, that's what this whole meditation was with crystal bowls and Reiki, that you had to have the innocence and purity, like the white buffalo calf, of the child. Be open, be innocent, and allow the energy to flow, and that this is a space where miracles occur. And I'm thinking, good grief, what is all this stuff going on? When the meditation was over, Reverend Renee Bledsoe, who's, the minister at the church, asked anyone if they wanted to share. And I'd never been there before, and I raised my hand, and I shared what I just shared with you. And her mouth dropped open, and she said, have you been here before? And I said, no. She said, did you know that this church is based on the foundation of the medicine wheel? Well, Joe, I don't even know what that means. But no, how would I know that?
What does it mean? What does it mean?
I still don't know what that means, other than it's a Native American term, the medicine wheel. That's about all I knew. And thus, that's probably why I saw the ancestors in the Council of Elders. She asked me if I knew that the church housed a John of God crystal bed. Now, John of God, have you heard of him before?
No, but it's weird you bring that up because I went to the paranormal conference in Arkansas, and they had a booth there with the biggest, most beautiful crystals I've ever seen in my life, and they were called John of God crystals. I've never heard of them before.
Okay, how interesting. See, I have cold chills. This is another perfect example of a coincidence of our paths coinciding. Okay? John of God is a healer in Brazil. He was first really became known when Oprah Winfrey went to Brazil several years ago, and Wayne Dyer used to go there as well, too. And she did a show on him. But he is, he channels entities that help him heal other people. And as part of, when you go to John of God, apparently the city where John of God is, the casa, is on a huge bed of crystals. They say that's one reason why it's so powerful. But in his healing, he uses something that's called a John of God crystal bed. It's not actually a bed, but there's, 7 lights that correspond with the energy systems, the chakras of the body. And the John of God bed actually acts as a portal so that those entities that he works with will come through the bed. So Renee Bledsoe said, "Did you know that we house a John of God crystal bed?" And no, how would I know that? And that's when she explained to me that the crystal bed is a portal. And I thought, aha, is that what I saw, the portal? Then she told me the room at the back of the church where this John of God bed is a picture of white buffalo calf woman. And I'm thinking, what? I mean, white buffalo calf woman is a legend in like the Lakota Sioux Nation. She's been around for like 2,000 years, and she's just one of their famous icons. I had never heard of her before, yet she came into me as that white buffalo calf and her with him. And then Bledsoe told me that at the foot of the John of God bed in the other room is a painting that one of the Reiki masters who was at the during the meditation had painted. It was a picture of a medicine wheel. It had a portal above, a tier of ancestors, a tier of angels, and a tier of the Council of Elders. It was as if I had stepped into that picture, into that painting. And that's the kind of thing that I found happening to me more and more often. There is no way that I would have known any of this information about the Church of Spiritual Light. Yet the first time I'm there, the icons that they work with and the energy that they work with, even the paintings on the wall, somehow came alive for me, and I was able to see them.
Wow. I'm wondering about this because everybody has, and you're familiar with William Buhlman. I know he said some good things about your book. He talks about belief structures, right? And when he would have these out-of-body experiences, sometimes he would land in these places. Like at one time he ended up at a church where a lot of Christians were, and they were all gathered at a white church or whatever, and it was a belief structure. And when he showed up, it kind of messed with their vibe pretty much, so he had to get out of there. But he said that all of these different, I guess you could say, religions and stuff everybody has these belief structures, and it's almost like a paradigm in the spirit world that they live in and go to and all this other stuff. Does that kind of make sense based on what you saw?
You know, it makes perfect sense. You know, everything is energy. You know, not only physical things, but thoughts and emotions. Everything is energy. And we often, I remember in college, you know, you could sit anywhere you wanted to, but you would go to class and you would sit in the same chair because your energy was there and it felt comfortable. Mm-hmm. So we are automatically drawn to the energy that we are familiar with. And, you know, I've read Juhlman's books, and, you know, what he's describing, what it seems to me is what he's describing is that group energy.
Yeah, you remember the part I'm talking about? Where?
Yes, I do. I do.
And he disturbed them, like they were singing in church and stuff, and they saw him, and it disturbed him, so he had to get out of there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because he didn't belong. He did not have the same energy vibe as they did. And what, in my experience with the Church of Spiritual Light, is I have no idea, but I was able to just tap into the energy of that church. But that's something that, well, the messengers have given me some scenarios. They have said, like, for example, if you connect to, you know, if you're connecting to some other energy source, and the first time you make a connection is like, they showed me that I ended up with this little vision of like someone going through a field of wheat at night. You've got the full moon shining like there is tonight, and a person, you can just see the footprints walking across the wheat, right, going from point A to point B. You see the shafts of wheat that just, you know, bend down underneath their footsteps. Right. And once you get to the other place, you realize you can find out where you were before because you can just follow the track. But every time you make a connection that's outside of the physical system, you know, if you make a connection to someone who's passed over, for example, once you've made that connection, you've started building a foundation of energy. And so you can find your way back to where you came from, and you can find your way back there again. The more you go back and forth, the easier it is to see the path. And that's how the energy works. In Bill's case, all these people were on their own path in their own church, and they were very comfortable because they all had the same belief system. Mm-hmm. And he literally drops into it, and his vibe is so off because he's not part of their group, and everyone stops. And they realize there's been what they felt was like an invasion. Something's happened, and it's everything's not flowing the way it had been before.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I got choked up there a little bit. When you were talking about the vision of the moonlight on a wheat field, mm-hmm, and walking, like seeing someone step through that. So, like, I've actually had a vision like that before. Yeah, it's a little strange. What am I supposed to do if I see something like that in my mind, right, and it feels familiar? You know what I'm talking about? Like something feels familiar about it. I've also had a vision of like a house and with roses and bushes and stuff, and it feels real familiar. It feels like it's somewhere in England. Cool. What am I supposed to do? So you're saying the more I give into that, the more I can follow it? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, there's a reason why you see a house with these roses, you know, but why is the reason? You know, some people believe in past lives, others don't. But to me, it makes sense. You know, as a soul, we are inhabiting our physical body right now, but our soul is energy, and it never dies. It only changes form. So why are you attracted to this place in England? Is something like bleeding through from a previous life? Time isn't really sequential like we experience it or we think we experience it, in Earth. But, what I would do with that is, first of all, you've recognized that you've seen, this place feels familiar.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a dream, if it was a vision. I just know that sometimes I think about it and sometimes I see it.
Right. What I would do is before you go to bed at night, I don't know if you have a dream journal or if you remember your dreams, but ask for more information from that and just be aware of it. Keep asking before you go to sleep and see what comes up. Once we fall asleep, our body, when our physical body is at rest, then our spirit or our soul, whatever word you want to use for it, is free to travel. And it travels without judgment. Just as I said earlier, you could walk through a wall during a dream or walk on the air or walk on water, and it doesn't seem odd because we're not being judgmental, our egos aren't there, and we just accept whatever it is that we experience in a dream. But that allows us to really step outside of time. But just keep searching for answers through your heart, and one of the best places to look is through dreams. Just ask for that information to come and be accepting of anything that does come. And if you can probably picture that in your mind's eye, that house, because you see the roses around, when you meditate, and some people don't meditate, so, as you're getting ready to drift off to sleep, put that in your mind. Just visualize what it is and just allow yourself to go there.
Yeah,
see
I remember
what comes
I've had
up.
one dream where I was walking down the steps and the light was dim and the steps kind of curved down, and I had people felt like maybe students or colleagues around me, and we were going outside to the yard, and the yard had a lot of greenery and roses. It's really weird.
Perfect.
Oh,
yeah, that's great. Try to get there again. And as you're with the people, then, because I found out that I could do this with the messages that came. And when you read the book, the messages are 99% verbatim. Every once in a while I had to leave out a person's name. But I dictated them, and they're verbatim messages. But many of the messages came with a visual. And what I found is when I went back and would read a message from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, that same visual that had accompanied it was there also. But I could treat it like a digital file, I could stop the vision, I could rewind it, I could actually stop it and then decide to go in a different direction. It sounds so bizarre because we're so accustomed to using our physical senses, but when we learn to step outside of the constraints of those 5 physical senses and use them differently, then a whole new world kind of opens up. So if you can get into that space, Joe, where here you are, you're getting ready to go down the steps, try to bring in all of the information, how you're feeling, the lighting is dim, you can hear the wooden steps creak as you walk down, and then stop it right there and turn around and look at the faces of the people that are with you. So stop the vision as it's going on and then expand it by looking at the people. Does anyone look familiar? Does anyone feel familiar? And that's another good way to get information.
Wow. We've got to take another break, but can I ask you just real quick, because I'm curious.
Sure.
When you were at that church and you said you saw the elders and what did the angels look like? I mean, I'm sure it was an interpretation, but did you see at all what they looked like?
They actually floated in. That's the kind of reason why I knew they were angels. I can't tell you that I saw wings, but they just floated and came to the back. But I knew they were angels because of the way I felt. When they came in, I had tears in my eyes. I was overwhelmed with a sense of absolute love and compassion. It was like nothing I've ever felt before. I mean, even if I didn't see anything, just the feeling, I knew that I was in the presence of holy ones. It was just magnificent.
They kind of human looking, maybe? I'm just curious about angels. That's one of my favorite subjects.
Oh, is it? They seem to be human-like, but I did see them floating. I have one whole chapter on angels that I've met. So you'll get more information when you can get to that chapter. But it's just the key thing with the angels is how I felt. Mm-hmm. Now, I have met angels before in physical form, and they were no different from just a human.
Really?
And that's in the book too. You'll have to read that part.
Okay, cool. That's cool. Well, I got the book, so I'm definitely going to read that part. I got the audio book actually. So, all right. So we're gonna keep talking about this. This is great, and we got to take a small break here. But we'll be back after these messages. Don't forget, tomorrow night, Pat Fitzhugh is going to be here. We're going to talk about the Bell Witch. That's one in pure Halloween spirit that we've been looking forward to. And Thursday night, Lori McDonald's going to be on the program. But we'll be right back with Candice Sanderson. Don't go anywhere.
This is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Alright everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, me old China plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
Live for 3 hours every Saturday night. It's a show that engages the mind, makes you think, and maybe even challenge what you think you know. Hi, I'm Jeremy Scott of Into the Paranormal, where we talk about topics that are anything but mainstream, somewhere between abnormal and paranormal. Bring an open mind and join us for Into the Paranormal, live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on the Fringe FM.
From birth, we have been conditioned to conform to what is normal, conditioned to adhere to authority, and conditioned to repeat what has been told to us as truth. I'm Ryan Gable, and here at the Secret Teachings Radio, I've interviewed hundreds of great guests and done extensive unique research into subjects that span from the paranormal and the occult to health, philosophy, and history. I personally have no affiliations or agenda, except to use objective critical thinking in my analysis of every subject discussed, to empower myself with information and hopefully allow you to do the same. If you want to join me, tune into the Secret Teachings radio broadcast, airing live Monday through Friday from midnight to 3 a.m. U.S. Pacific Standard Time on the Fringe FM. For more information, you can visit our website at www.thesecretteachings.info or email me at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
Hey, it's
it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Want to know what's on the Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm. Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere. I know some of you guys got some questions. Don't call in just yet. I haven't opened the phone lines up, but we're here with Candice Sanderson. We're talking about her book, The Reluctant Messenger. It's, just give me a minute before you call in on the phones. I got some stuff I want to cover here before we do that. I wanted to tell you, Candice, real quick, and I know people aren't listening to hear my stories, but when you were talking about the angels, during the break, you were talking about how, before the break, did you say you met a physical angel before the break or during the break?
That was during break.
Okay. Some of the coolest stuff we talk about is actually during the break. I'm sorry, guys, but it is. That's just the way it happens. And, meeting a physical angel, I'm pretty sure I met one when I was a kid. How they say they're here unaware.
Right.
My cousin Jeremiah and I were with my uncle, and my uncle was one of those guys. He's a real tough guy, right? So he was out there, took us camping, and pretty much starved us out. It was kind of abusive, I think, pretty much. But he said, "You're not going to eat unless you catch something." He was trying to teach us a lesson or whatever, right? And we were on the Arkansas River, and nothing. For hours and hours and hours, nothing was biting. We were literally just laying on the docks praying for food, right, to catch something. And this big guy, he's just a big guy, big black man, sits down with a bucket, and he's about 40 or 50 yards away from us, like a half a football field, if you want to look at it that way. And he's over there just catching fish left and right, laughing, having a good time. Trying to tell us what to do to try to get them to bite, and I'm over here suffering thinking, my goodness, man, tell us something, right? And it was hot. And what I did was, as I was pulling my pole out of the water, I slipped and fell off the dock into the river. I guess, I don't know. I just forgot that the water was behind me or something. I don't know, but I just fell into the river. And as I was going in, I could feel the current. It was in a hard part of the river, so it started pulling me, and then I felt this arm grab me. And this guy, I was like 12 years old, and this guy picked me up with one arm, and just pulled me out of the water like a fish and was looking at me with the biggest smile I've ever seen in my life and said, this is what he said. He said, you better be careful. He said, Occurrence will take you away, boy, and we won't see you no more. Don't nobody want that. And started laughing, and he set his bucket down. I mean, he set me down, right? And I'm freaking out because I thought I was about to die and drown. And finally, when I came to, he left his bucket there for me and Jeremiah, and he was gone. Number one, there's no way he could have moved 50 yards from where he was to me that fast. When I asked Jeremiah about it, he said he didn't even see the guy come over. And he definitely didn't see him. The guy was gone. He wasn't camping there. There were no cars, nothing. He was just there and gone. It saved my life.
And
I got a feeling that was an angel. I really do.
His bucket had fish in it?
Oh, it was full of fish. Yeah, we ate that night, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. A couple things I want to say about that, Joe. First of all, as you start telling the story, I have cold chills from the top of my head to the tips of my toes. And cold chills, for many people, and certainly for me, is an indicator that there's something special going on. And usually when I get cold chills, it means someone is really speaking the truth, like with the capital T, truth. The impression I'm getting is that this man truly was like a guardian angel looking out over you all. Here you and Jeremiah are. You've got to catch something if you want to eat. You're pretty miserable out there, and then here's this man who has everything, throws in a line, and a fish comes back.
Yeah,
all
like
he's
that.
doing.
He's catching them left and right.
Yeah, because he could. Okay, there were no blockages. He is at one with his entire surroundings. He's asking and he is receiving, and he was there just for you. So when you fell into that water, he was immediately right there. And not only did he save you, literally save your life, but then he also provided you with abundance because there's his bucket. Yeah, I that just feels so much like it was a true angel encounter.
Yeah, because the more I think about it, nothing makes sense. You could ask my cousin today, and he remembers it too. Like the guy just, even Jeremiah was like, man, the guy, I didn't even see him move over here, And by the time we turned around, he was like, we looked at the bucket, and we were like, whoa, I think he left his fish and turned around. Where'd he go? Gone. Nowhere.
Yeah, and if the bucket had not been there, that was your proof that he was really there.
Yeah.
Because everything else had simply disappeared. And how many stories, have we all read about, these people in a car accident and a Good Samaritan, pulls them out of the car before it explodes, and then there was no Good Samaritan. No one could find them. No one was there. The angels will show up when we need them to. And that's exactly what happened to you.
I always felt bad.
And when I got those cold chills, it's like, oh my goodness, that's exactly what happened. Wow, that's a fabulous story.
I always felt bad for them, because they loved their dad more than anything, and he was just a mean, excuse my French, but just a mean-ass drunk. Always trying to teach them a lesson, always. He was just way too hard on them,
But teaching them the hard way instead of with grace.
Right, and I was like going camping. I thought we were just going camping, but it was a big surprise when we got out there that, we're going to get to learn another lesson from Uncle David again. Not fun. Not fun at all, right? So,
right.
Anyways,
but look at the good.
Look at the good
that came. Look at the good that came from that. That I don't know if you had an interest in angels before that time, but you certainly had since then. And I am sure that there are many of us that have had angelic encounters. Like I can't really describe what I saw at the Church of Spiritual Light when the angels came in. I know they floated in. They look like humans. I can't even tell you that I saw wings. But what I knew, and this is sometimes that's how the information would come to me. I would just know something. I wouldn't necessarily see it or have anything dictated to me, but I knew in my heart what it was. And that's what this was. I knew they were angels, and it was mainly by the way I felt. Mm-hmm. I mean, I started crying because I was so overwhelmed with this sense of love and compassion that just permeated the air like a strong perfume. But it was nothing but pure, absolute pure love. I have a chapter, Heavenly Help, in the book that talks about angelic encounters. Angels came to me, and there were times that they would say, your day's going to be different. Just be aware. Just open your eyes and see what happens. You are going to be drawing into your field a different set of vibrations, a different set of people. And I took notes that day on, I couldn't help it because so many things happened. Like, I just retired in June, but I'm the type of person that would go to work at least an hour early. A real bore at work, because I wouldn't take a lunch break. I would stay late. I mean, they always got their money's worth out of me because I just worked so hard. I mean, I'm a nice person, but I am pretty much all business at work. Right. I get there early. Yeah, I know. I mean, I really was. But this one day, like more people came to see me that day just to chat, and I don't chat at work, than they had in like 6 months before. I mean, one lady came in, never even been to my office. She, knocked on the door. I'm busy working on a psychological report. She walks in, she comes up to me and just gives me a kiss on top of my head. And I'm thinking, what? I mean, it was sweet. It was a really nice gesture, but certainly out of the ordinary. I had to go to the administrative center, and there was, in the parking lot, a principal that I used to work with. And I got along fine with her, but we never had, she was at that school for maybe only 2 years, but we never, ever had a personal conversation. We'd had many conversations about students, but never anything personal. She saw me, she came over, she talked to me, and she gave me a big hug. But, little things throughout the day like that, where the angels had said, be aware, you're bringing a different set of vibrations, a different set of people into your awareness.
Wow.
Angels they're wonderful. They guide us. They're with us when we enter the world. They're with us when we exit.
Yeah.
They're always there.
That's a big subject for me, is angels. I got a big, huge book full of angelic names. I've been studying that stuff for a while now. What did they say anything? You were talking about time earlier, right? Uh-huh. Is it really just an illusion to us, or is it something totally different?
Oh, it's probably a little bit of both. Let me see if I can explain this. What I was told, I was given a series of diagrams in my head about time. And, first of all, it's like, what is time? It seems if you're having fun, if you're having a great time, then it goes really fast. Yeah. But if you're having a root canal, it stops. It slows down. And we all know that. We know, like, oh, my gosh, where's the time gone?
Or if you're sick, it goes by really slow. If you're real bad
really
sick.
Slow, just like a root canal. Couldn't be slower. So we know how it has that perception of Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. Well, the messengers gave me this picture in my mind's eye, and the first picture was my perception of time. So imagine on one side, like you've got a piece of paper in front of you. On one side, you've got point A, and on the other side of the paper, you've got point B. Time, the way I thought it worked, was a straight line from point A to point B. Okay? It's 60 minutes in an hour, 52 weeks in a year, whatever, but it's from point A to point B. And then they told me that it really doesn't work like that. It is that straight line actually if it becomes a sine wave, like a curve, like you grab one end of that rope, that straight line like a jump rope, and you wiggle it up and down, and all of a sudden it's very wavy. And then when you go from point A to point B, they have something that they called a POE, a point of existence. Everybody has a POE. Everything has a POE, a point of existence.
That's what they call it?
Yes, they called it a point of existence. It's not only for people, but, plants, animals, rocks, minerals, whatever. Everyone has a point of existence. For people, it's generally around your heart space. But if you take that straight line from point A to point B, I saw my POE, point of existence, as a little dot going just from A to B. With the sine wave, with the curvy wave, all of a sudden, as my POE goes up and down those waves, I realize, let's say point A is where I am now and point B is Grandma's house. I realized the trip to Grandma's house just got a little longer because time isn't straight, it's wavy. Okay?
Okay.
Then they introduced the concept of expanded awareness. So if you take your POE, your point of existence, let's just call it a little dot right in your heart. If you expand your awareness, all of a sudden that dot is no longer a dot on a piece of paper, but it's a circle. And it gets larger and larger. And then, as they were showing me this, I was able to see it in 3 dimensions, and that circle became a globe. And so those globes that were now on that sine wave from point A to point B started interacting and touching each other. And then as they even expanded, then that encompassed more of the sine wave, of the time wave. So what happened is, instead of moving time marching forward like we think it does, because it's a globe, you could actually step back some in time or step forward in time. And so time isn't what we think of it as, from, one point to another, but it's much more flexible. And as we expand our awareness and begin to step outside of the physical realm and use our senses differently, then we can start experiencing the past.
So we can actually
or the present,
time travel.
Or the future.
I mean, if you think about it, we could time travel, right? And that's like following the energy thing you're talking about, right? Like if we have a vision that might actually lead us into a...
Absolutely. And that's exactly what's happening when you start, because you can do it in your dreams. I've been, since I started getting messages, I've been more interested in shamanism. And when we look at a lot of indigenous people and a lot of shamans, they believe, like the Aborigines in Australia, for example, believe that the dream time is the real time, and when we're awake is the part that's not real. Shamans learn how to dream with their eyes open, and that's such a good analogy for expanding your consciousness and letting go of the limitations imposed by our 5 physical senses. As we start learning to use our senses differently, we too can begin to dream the world into existence, and we can start dreaming with our eyes open. And that's when you can go back and look at your little house in England, you know, with the rose bushes and the people around, and then back it up and see what happened just before, or stop, you know, and turn around and take a look at, well, who's next to you. But what you've done is you've changed your essence from a single point of existence to a field energy of your entire energy body, and so much more is possible. You know what, Joe, this is crazy. I'm listening to what I'm saying, and if if I had said this before 2013, I would have thought, you know, I wouldn't have talked that way. But, you know, my truth is different now because, you know, just like the book says, tales beyond belief, my belief system has changed. And I realize that, you know, what I used to believe was so limited. And now I've kind of opened up to this whole new world of exploration. And it's, you know, it's a lot of fun.
Well, you know, that's why I talk so much about the out-of-body experience, strictly for skeptics and naysayers, right? To a lot of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay. The reason why is because that's exactly what I was when I first picked up Robert Monroe's book. And as I heard him telling me things, just like you are, I thought, there's no way, right? There's no way that this guy is so convincing. I think he's telling me the truth, at least from his point of view. And I tried these things, and I had my own experience. So I can take friends that I talk to this day, and, you know, I can't tell them about the Akashic records and chakras and all the stuff because they just kind of give me that. But when I talk about the out-of-body experience, and they actually listen or read that book, and they have some sort of experience, their whole world changes. So that's all it takes. You take somebody that's so sure, like, seriously, this is such crazy stuff. It's not true, blah, 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 blah. And all that has to happen for their entire paradigm to change is that one experience. And then everything shifts. Now what's possible after that, right?
Right.
That's it.
You know, there's one chapter in my book about dreams, and I open up the chapter talking about an event that was like a real eye-opener for me many, many years ago. I had come home for college on the weekend, and I was staying with my parents. And my mother had a dream. She woke up, or that morning when she got up, she said, I had a dream about Jana. It was my sister. And she said, Mama, I'm not going to use his name, Mr. Joe, I'll say Mr. Joe. Mr. Joe is with me. And I thought, you know, I really didn't know what to think. And that evening, the newspaper came in. We had an evening newspaper, and there was Mr. Joe's obituary. And I didn't know what to think of that. Now, my sister Jana had just passed in a car wreck a couple weeks before. And I thought, what in the world is this? I couldn't wrap my mind around it. How could my sister, who had passed away a few weeks before, come to my mother and say, Mama, Mr. Joe is with me? And then we find that Mr. Joe died. Mr. Joe was the CEO of a business college she had graduated from. And he was not a friend of the family. You know, we knew of him. You know, we didn't know he wasn't a friend. And he died suddenly on, heart attack, car wreck. I don't know what happened, but, it was just something sudden, and we certainly couldn't have predicted it. And I thought, how did my mother know that? Then I thought, she didn't know it. My sister knew it. How did my sister know that? But that was a real paradigm shift for me, because I realized I had a couple really valuable lessons. And one is, you know, when you die, there's a part of you that's still there. And number two, it can communicate. That part of you can still communicate. Now, what I realize now is that was not a dream. It was a visitation or a visit. It occurred in the dream state, but it's totally different from a dream. And, you know, I've realized over the years there were so many times when, you know, people I know would lose loved ones, and the loved ones would come to them in a dream and say, I'm okay, or they would tell them, you know, whatever message, and people would wake up and think, oh, that's just wishful thinking. Mm-hmm. Instead of actually feeling some relief and some healing, knowing that our loved ones are still there. We just don't communicate with them like we did before. But when you're in the dream state, once again, you let go of judgment, you let go of ego, and you just allow things to happen. Your spirit travels way beyond your local point of existence, travels out into the ethers or wherever it goes, and then you're allowed to communicate with others. But, you know, awesome. Dreams, angels, those kind of things, I've always been fascinated with them.
Well, me too. That's one of the things I think a lot of us are. You know, we're halfway through the show here. We've got to take our halfway point break. But when we come back, if it's okay, I kind of want to ask you some things about, I mean, there's no way we can give the book away because it's extremely detailed. It's all verbatim, and there's so many messages in there. But I've got to ask you some questions about space and creation and stuff. I just have to. I don't know if my audience will forgive me if I don't. But
okay,
we'll be right back, guys. We're going to talk a little bit more with Candice Sanderson about this. I think I'll open the phones up too if you got any questions. If you want to call in, I know I missed one earlier, or you can drop a question in the chat. You can text in at 501-777-5631. We'll be right back after these words.
Listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Paranormal News. I'm John Jeter. More strange occurrences in the sky are seeing the light of day. This time we head overseas to France and China for two reports captured on video that we've linked to at paranormalradio.com. A security camera on the northwestern coast of France captured a large green stationary ring in the sky that didn't move with the clouds or reflect off the water below and seemed to be hanging out there all night long. Thousands of witnesses in China saw what could have been a rocket launch over the Beijing area last Thursday night.
Whoa. What's that?
It was the same day as the aborted Soyuz launch, but the sky was plenty clear of all debris at that point. Are these just coincidences? Are they a visitation?
The sky is falling. The sky is
Last week, it was strange objects crashing into homes and on beaches. This week, it's nearly as strange as well. A giant ball of ice. Known as Mega Cryometer, also hit a home and a man walking his dog in western Illinois. Ooh, I bet that felt good. There have been a few studies on these objects. Many suspect they are from aircraft flying overhead. However, they've been found in areas well afar from flight paths and even predate the advent of aviation. A man in the small town of Liberty Township says he heard a whooshing sound and felt a thud that was so powerful it shook the neighbor's house and his dog started barking. Well, I'd bark too if something like that fell next to me, man. He found a chunk of ice about the size of a basketball in a crater 2 feet deep. Dennis Nover took a sample to the Department of Meteorology at Valparaiso University for analysis. Megacriometers are still a mystery to meteorologists, with no known explanation for how atmospheric ice can accumulate in such a big mass. Connect with the news at paranormalradio.com. I'm John Jeter, and this is Paranormal News.
This is Rev Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and it was good. Then God created man, and it wasn't bad. But the masses were asses. They were lost. They had no guidance. So God sat and thought about it. And he created the Exum Experience. And God sent forth Alex to entertain the people of Israel, the Canaanites, the Palestinians, and the douchebags. And Alex led his flock through the dark, cold, rugged terrain of Long Beach Radio. He conquered the monks. He cast down the elderly and banished the foul burn. And it was good. The Exum Experience. It's not just a show, it's a religious experience.
Occult Arcana is a balanced and objective guide to those subjects considered a part of the nature of light and darkness. Addressed in this text is a compilation of material that will provide new perspectives and awaken latent abilities that we all possess. The content herein shall provide magical sustenance for adept and novice alike, and will help strengthen the cornerstone of mystic understanding and alchemical transmutation. If you are interested in this modern grimoire, you can find detailed information and ways to order by visiting www.thesecretteachings.info. Although esoteric and occult studies remain vast, they are rooted within a universal philosophy that is difficult, if not impossible by finite terms, to explain in words. Language places restriction and erects barriers to understandings. By this it is to be understood that there are some things man should consider far too sacred to profane with definition. For these concepts and the manner by which we live our lives, we shall take a note from the Greek philosopher Pythagoras. Quote, "Silence is better than unmeaning words." End quote. To get your autographed copy of Occult Arcana today, simply visit www.thesecretteachings.info or email The Secret Teachings at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Times are changing. The circus of politics, healthcare's low standards and high prices, and let's not forget food quality. What to do? Arm yourself with Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. In a world of chemical imbalance and poor air and water quality, it's time you make a move. Log on to GetTheTea.com and stock up on organic non-GMO supplements. Don't forget the tea. Cleansing your body never felt so good. And we have a brand new tea called Takedown Tea, which helps support healthy glucose. All natural body support so you can be at your best, naturally. All you have to do is log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. We're not a fad that comes and goes. We are the real deal. Join us and armor up. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Changing America's health one tea bag at a time.
All right, the phone lines are open if you want to call in. It's 1-800-588-0335. If you got any questions as well, you can drop it in the Spreaker chat, or any experiences you want to share with Ms. Candice. That would be great. And we're talking about her book, The Reluctant Messenger, which is a title. She says that she didn't really want a title at that. I find it funny, Candice, the whole time that we're talking about this. I can tell because you're so full of excitement that these things probably really did happen to you, and yet you weren't real sure. I mean, you didn't even want to write a book. You feel like you have to. How hard was it to share? Were you worried people were going to think, like, man, people are going to think I'm crazy, right? Like, I've got to...
Yeah. Well, I mean, when that first experience happened, with the flower, and the first thing that came to my mind, because I'm a psychologist, is, okay, I've really lost it this time. What's going on? I'm hearing things that really aren't there. I'm seeing things that really aren't there. But then as I, really analyzed it, I thought, no, that's not really what's going on. But, I, gradually, I'm really good about writing things down. So I was able to really document everything that happened. And as I said earlier, I got into this pattern of getting into my car and just turning on my voice recorder on my phone, and the messages would come. Now, sometimes I would have like a cosmic heads up, and while I was getting dressed, or sometimes I'm even in the shower, and a message would start to come, and I would say, whoa, hold off, just wait a little bit. And mostly they would, but I would just start the recorder, and then on I would go. I would just start recording. But, after a while, I just had so much information. And when I was told by the muses within that I would be writing a book, I thought, great, I really didn't want to do that, but I kind of knew I had to. So I kind of acquiesced. Okay, so I'm going to be a messenger. I'm going to write a book. But every once in a while, I would really, something would happen, I would feel really, like, insecure. Like, for example, I went to my daughter and son-in-law's, it was my son-in-law's parents' house. They had a family gathering a few years ago, and my son-in-law's sister, they saw me and gave me a hug, how you doing and everything. And then they knew I was writing a book. And just as polite conversation goes, they said, oh, well, what's your book about? And I started to tell them, and their eyes got big and their mouths dropped open. And, Joe, I realized they were just having polite conversation. And they were totally unaware of my book's topic.
They didn't know what you was, they wasn't expecting what you was about to say.
And, right. And obviously they were very uncomfortable with it. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I can't even answer a simple question, what's your book about? I just could have said, my spiritual experiences, and that would have been enough. But, because I saw that, especially in the wife's eyes, she seemed scared, almost, And so then I started to...
That's because you're shaking up the paradigms, Were they Christian people or no?
They're Catholic, yeah.
Well, there you go. That'll freak them out.
And I started to give them some examples that I thought would prove to them that what was happening was real, that my experiences were genuine. And so I just found myself fumbling and getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. So while I'm giving her these irrefutable examples that happened to me, and then later they were verified, she just, like, I think stopped breathing. And then I just started crying. I just started sobbing.
Why?
And I thought, because I was getting further and I was making her so scared. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing to this person?
Right. She
wasn't ready to hear what I have to say. But I wasn't ready. You know, I mean, there's a statement in my book, truths discovered are always uniquely our own. She was not ready to hear my newfound truth because it was my truth based on my experiences of these marvelous things that happened to me. But then I remembered, you know, when they first happened, my heart pounded, my breath quickened. I mean, my first thoughts were, okay, I've gone crazy, I've gone psychotic. You know, it didn't take long for me to realize, hey, this is awesome. These are wonderful messages. These are enlightening me. You know, this is making my life so much better. But initially, they did scare me till I knew what they were.
Yeah.
And actually, by not doing anything, the energy kept flowing, and I kept getting more messages, and they were beautiful. But
well, that's
you know,
why you write a book, right? Because think about it. If you write a book, the person that's ready to receive this information is going to get the book. It's going to happen, you know?
Right.
That's the way I look at it.
I mean, that is so true. And so while I'm sitting in you know, talking with her, she didn't buy my book and she wasn't reading it, but I was ready to share it with her. And it's like, oh no, that was something I should have never done, because this book is for people who are ready for it. And if they're not ready for it, that's okay. That's who they are and where they are. So now I've learned if someone says, what's your book about? I just say, oh, my spiritual experiences, and I stop at that.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you a real quick question. If the brain is, the messenger said the brains are like antennas, basically. So
yes.
Am I a signal? And if I am, where am I? In other words, if I'm just an antenna receiving these things, am I here or am I really somewhere else?
Wow, what a good question.
Did they tell you about that at all?
No. Okay, well, maybe. Okay, your brain is operating like a radio receiving station. So it is automatic and it's receiving messages, and it comes to be interpreted. You need some kind of interpretation. But where, quote, you are is your heart. Okay? You live your true essence of who you are while you're in this earth, inhabiting this physical body, is your heart. That is who you really are. At night, when you go to sleep, that heart travels, that life within your heart travels up. It's your soul, it's your spirit, or whatever, and it can travel, and then it comes right back. But, you know, your brain is there, and it serves a lot of purposes. It helps to interpret all the stimuli around you. It tells you what's hot, what's cold, you know, what has a good smell, what, it certainly helps us, and it brings in information. But who you really are is what resides, is your spirit that resides deep within your heart. That may not really answer your question, but it's like the best I can do.
Well, it's confusing a little bit, right? Because, I mean, consciousness is perplexing if you think about it.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to get into a little bit of creation, right? And I had this big rant that I did where I'm a not a big fan of polarity, but I understand it's necessity for existence. But it takes over our lives sometimes in beliefs. For example, people believe in science or they believe in religion. They can't see that it might be two sides of the same coin.
Right.
That the Big Bang could be the metaphorical story of let there be light. You know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, Joe, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to interrupt you, but I know you just started my book. My last chapter is called In the Beginning.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it is by far the most profound experience that I've ever had in my life.
I'm hearing the message about the creation of existence.
I didn't really even hear about it. I experienced it.
Really?
It was, and I know that this sounds bizarre, and it sounded bizarre to me as it happened. But I had gone through a period of a couple weeks, and I had this immense energy that I had to offload. I mean, I always get up early in the morning to go to work, and, it's never pleasant. I'd get up anyway, and I'm always early, but, I had so much energy that I was getting up at 2 and 3 in the morning, and I would start walking in my neighborhood, and then I started running. Now, you've got to realize, many, many years ago, I had a very severe back injury, and I went for months where I couldn't even walk. I had to use a walker. Yeah. So the fact that I could even jog, I mean, I wasn't running fast, but, run just amazed me. And within less than a week's time, I was running 3 miles a morning, which is like unbelievable. And as I'm running one morning, all of a sudden I stop dead in my tracks, and I see this massive energy that just starts swirling around me. And, you can read more of the details actually in the book, but I realized I saw creation. Like, for example, I saw, imagine a big black tarp, or actually it looked like a velvet cloth that was miles across. Okay. And scattered on top of it were hundreds of thousands of diamonds or small crystals. Now, imagine someone pinching the underneath side of that and pulling it down. And then all of these crystals swirled together like water going down a drain. And where that had been pinched and pulled down, they all settled at the very bottom. And I was told, so anyway, I saw all of this. Didn't really know too much. I just really didn't know what to think of it, but I knew that I had seen creation. And first of all, Joe, this is a first for me. I've never been able to talk about this without crying. Okay. So I'm not crying, so wow, that's amazing.
I think we're ready to hear it.
Okay. Well, very true. That's true. So all this information came to me, and I was watching it, and it was just unbelievable. I saw energy crashing on itself and then folding back on itself, making a torus field, which is a torus field is like a donut-shaped field. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, I thought, why did I see this? The next day, the vision came again, but then it came with an overlay of religion. And I was told, I saw the whole thing in my mind's eye again, but with the Holy Trinity of Christianity. And, God saying, let there be light. And then I saw the whole thing the next day with another overlay, and that was of like astronomy and energy. I was told about black holes, like the thing that I described, with the blanket, that when you pulled that black blanket down and all those crystals and diamonds formed, pulled into that, I was told that was a black hole, and where all the light had gathered, it represented the singularity. And right above that was the event horizon. And that hole was a gravity well. I mean, I've never heard of these terms. I've heard of gravity well. I mean, I've heard of black hole. I didn't know that at the bottom of a black hole was the singularity. I mean, there were all of these terms that I'd never heard of. There was quantum mechanics in there where I saw waveforms that were collapsing into particles. But I saw it through the overlay of Christianity. I saw it through the overlay of science. I saw it through the overlay of energy. And it was just one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. And I was really confused about it, and I thought, what does this mean? What is this? What does this mean? And all of a sudden, I got the words that I am an instrument of the Word, with the capital W. And I thought, I don't want to be.
The Word is alive. Alive. It's not text in a book.
It's living. It's energy. It's. I actually went to church that day. I went to Unity Church in Naples, and it's the first time I'd ever been to that church. And I'm a recovering Baptist, and so it's the first time I'd actually been inside a church.
A recovering Baptist.
Yes,
I understand that. I am too.
But it's the first time I'd been in a church building. I mean, church or spiritual light's really different.
Yeah,
but
it's hard,
in a church building in years. And when I went in the church, they said that was the day of the Feast of St. Francis. And when I had gotten the words, I'm an instrument of the Word, then I realized that was so familiar. And that's the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. And then I realized this was like the culmination of the reluctant messenger. I, for whatever reason, just a plain old simple me, there's nothing special about me, that I was given this experience so that I could be an instrument or an agent of the Word. I was given different overlays so I would have a different vocabulary to talk to people, whether it was through Christianity or through the vocabulary of science or the vocabulary of energy. But that these were like my words, not the words of a prophet or a master or a saint, but the words of just a common everyday person who had stepped into the unknown. And, I have no idea why this happened to me, but I realized I actually had become the messenger. And I still, to this day, remain very reluctant about it, but I'm being guided to share.
I can tell every story of any messenger, whether it's, Brahmin or biblical, wherever it comes from. You ever notice how messengers or prophets or whatever, they're all reluctant. They all don't want to accept it at first, it seems like, until they have to. But hearing you say that, I'm not trying to step on your toes here or anything, but hearing you say that you're not special in any kind of way, I really think a part of this message is to let you know, if you really knew who you really are, you wouldn't say that,
Well, that is so true. That is so true for every one of us, because we, as Bob Monroe, he has an affirmation, I am more than my physical body. So many times we think of ourselves as our physical bodies, and that is not true. We are just temporarily inhabiting those bodies. But deep within us is that divine spark, whether it's what the messengers call the point of existence, whether it's your heart, your soul, your whatever vocabulary you want to use. But every single one of us, we are so precious, and we are part of everything that there is, and we have that divine spark within us. And hopefully as we go through life, we will uncover more and more of that divine spark so we can let our true nature shine. And so in that respect, absolutely I'm special, just like every single other person is. But I'm so ordinary in this lifetime that these experiences that happen to me that are so remarkable, they can happen to everybody, to anyone. There's nothing special about me that allowed me to have the messages. We all have that potential. And one of the messages throughout the whole book, that I kept getting from the messengers were, we are all one. If we look at Earth is being protected. I learned about a crystalline grid that's covering the Earth. I learned about there were star systems that are overlooking our progression on Earth, that are helping us through a transition. We are so loved and so protected by angels and even by some cosmic beings. But it's so difficult sometimes to step out of the role of our physical bodies. You get up, you go to work, you pay your bill, you go to the grocery store, you do your laundry. We get stuck into this day-to-day routine. But to realize that we can just, if we could just really know and appreciate who we really are, we would be so amazed. We're all just divine beings.
That's so true. Yeah, I got to take another break here, but that's definitely true. I wanted to ask you about this crystalline grid, and I'm gonna steal that from you, Recovering Baptist. I'm actually gonna steal that. I might put that in my profile. Maybe because I remember, right? Don't you remember your parents dragging you to church, and you sit if you're a recovering Baptist like me, and they sit you down there and open your hymnals to 105, hymnals to page 105. Right. And then the organ lady gets on there, right? And she looks like she's having a bad day. And then you get into the sad song, love lifted me, love lifted me. It sounds like half drunk is what it sounds like. The men are singing some kind of half drunk, like they just left from a bar, When nothing else could help, love lifted me. You're thinking, man, this is a party, right? We're having a good time in here. Anyways, yeah, that's enough of that. Sorry, I'm just playing around. We'll be right back with Candice Sanderson after these words. Quick break here.
truth is out there.
There's something out here.
And so are we. KTOK Digital Broadcasting, The Fringe FM. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied, but you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Follow The Fringe FM on Facebook and Twitter at The Fringe FM. The Fringe FM loves hearing from you. Have a suggestion, comment, or question? We're all ears. Email talkback@thefringe.fm.
That's got to be the fastest break I ever took. You know, I don't want to embarrass you or anything, Candice, but you did say the funniest thing I've ever heard, right? One of the funniest things I've ever heard. And
what's that?
That well, I'll let you tell it, but that your Sunday school teacher told you that heaven was going to be like church every day.
Oh.
Really? I mean, you know, like, if my Sunday school teacher had told me that, I don't know if I'd want to go to heaven, honestly. But, you know, I need to do that. You got brave and you went to, how long had it been since you walked into you said you went to that Unity Church, right?
Yes.
How long had it been since you went to church like that?
Well, you know, as I said earlier, I was a recovering Baptist, and really, when growing up in Western Kentucky, it was the expectation that you went to church every time the doors were open. Mm-hmm. We went Sunday morning, you know, Sunday school, then church. We went Sunday evening. They would have services on Wednesday evening. You would have a dinner and then a service. And I went, and I got probably every medal there was for perfect attendance, and I memorized memorized more Bible verses than anyone else because I was always smart and always very competitive. And then, you know, I mean, as I got older, I quit going as much, and I had a husband who passed away, and that was, you know, very, very difficult. I had 2 children. My youngest had just turned 4 when he died, and I remember I reached out to one of the local churches to talk with someone, and called twice, and they never called me back. And I thought, gosh, right when I really, really need the church, I really need someone, and I couldn't get through to them. But that's what really kind of started my spiritual path. So I started looking and seeking answers outside of religion. Now, religion certainly has its purpose, but I realized through having a spiritual, through my spiritual training, that there are many paths that lead up to the mountain.
It's a doorway
religion
into the mysteries, basically, I think.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. What I found for me was spirituality. That was a broader doorway. I mean, religion was real narrow and real specific, but being spiritual, there were many more paths that encompassed. And yeah, I remember in break telling you that my Sunday school teacher said once, you know, when you die and you go to heaven, and she's going to tell us what heaven's like. And I'm thinking, I want to know. And she said, it's like being in church 24/7. And I thought, good Lord, but I don't want, no.
That's what I said. No. They better have coloring books, damn it. I ain't going.
No, send me to hell. But, I'm trying to answer your question. I had not been in church on a regular basis for many years. I had gone every once in a while for a special occasion. For a wedding or whatever, but not, it had probably been 10 years or more since I had actually gone to church. And so the first time I decided to go to church at Unity Church is when I discovered that was the day of St. Francis. They celebrate the Feast of St. Francis, and it just made perfect sense with the message I had just gotten about being an instrument of the Word.
Well, I think you definitely are. And, the thing is my family now, they go, yeah, Joe, they'll whisper. I'm like, hey, Joe, because this is what happens. If you're from the South, everybody invites you to their church, right? You should come to our church on Sunday. And, and they'll whisper and go, yeah, Joe, he's a mystic. Most people go, oh, mystic, what's that? And some people don't know what that is. And he's one of those,
Right.
Oh, so you're one of those people that worship the devil. You just don't know it. Well, we can help you. And I'm thinking, okay.
Right.
All right.
We'll save you.
Mm-hmm. That's right. But, you're braver than me because there's a Unity Church here I've always thought about. Because everybody wants fellowship, right? I mean, that's what it's for, really. And there is a Unity Church here, and I've always thought about going to it. I just never had the courage to go, to be honest with you.
Well, I had the courage, and I went that day. Now, I also kind of made a spectacle of myself because every time they would start, they did sing some hymns that were reminiscent of, my Southern Baptist days. And anytime a real religious hymn started, I would start crying. It was like too much.
From depression?
No, actually, but I mean, it actually wasn't from depression, but there's one chapter in my book that was on ascended masters, and I actually had made some connections with Jesus Christ, with the Buddha, and this brought up this connection that to them and to Jesus. Now, I have gone to Unity Church to some of their meditation exercises, but actually going to the church services was the first time. But it just brought up this this overwhelming sense of, I'm not too sure, compassion or something, and I just ended up just crying.
Right. Well, you came back home, but you came back home in a more understanding way, I think.
Yeah, that's very well put. I wish I'd thought of that to say. I would have sounded smart.
Anytime you come back home to that kind of love that you remembered as a child, but you got and it's got to be even overwhelming with a higher understanding. It probably was a bit overwhelming for you,
Right.
Music moves the soul.
Well put.
For sure.
And it was definitely during the music, so that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for clarifying that for me.
What about what did the messenger say to you about that, about like emotions? Because I've had like Rosicrucian masters and other people tell me, they said, look, you're not your emotions, you have emotions. And it was the most confusing thing. I was like, I have emotions, but I'm not my emotions. What do you mean by that? Did they talk about emotions at all to you?
Not really, but they did talk about that we have what's called an emotional guidance system, okay? And so we could use our emotions to help guide us, okay? They also said that like animals have this, and we as humans refer to that as instinct. That, you know, when like a squirrel, when wintertime comes, he doesn't get out his day planner and say, okay, time to bury all the nuts. You know, he just goes with the flow, and he goes with his gut and goes with his heart or whatever, but he is guided to do what he needs to do for survival, you know, day by day. It's not in his brain. He just does it. And that's that we have that capability too, but it's called the emotional guidance system. And if we learn to use that emotional guidance system to get us through life, that we're going to be better off. Like, how many times do you decide you're going to do something, and then you change your mind, and then it's like, oh, I knew better than that. Or, you know, it used to be I would be driving to work, for example, and all of a sudden I'm at an intersection, and something tells me, you know, to turn left instead of to go straight.
Oh, I used to do that. Oh, I used to do that actually on purpose. Go ahead, though. I'll tell you about it in a minute.
Okay. So almost every time, if I would not heed that advice, you know, they told me to turn, but I went straight, then something would happen. And so many times I remember saying, I knew better. I knew that was going to happen. So I finally started listening to my gut, which the messengers called emotional guidance system. So I'm not my emotions, but my emotions guide me, because that's part of the whole system to know if that you're in alignment with whatever you're supposed to do. But, you know, and it doesn't mean that if your guidance tells you to go straight or turn right, that, you know, if you don't, that you're going to be in a massive car wreck or whatever. It might mean that, you know, you might run over a nail and have a flat tire, or you might, you know, might be a few minutes late to work, or it could mean that all of a sudden you did avoid an intersection that may have resulted in something that you didn't want to be in. But so almost every time when I get that gut feeling that do this instead of that, like 100% of the time, I abide by it, and then nothing ever happens. And I just say thank you. Same thing like when I go to work, you know, when I come home every day, I put my keys in the same place. You know, I rush out the door so I can get to work an hour early. And sometimes I can't find my keys. And it's like, what? Where are they? And I'd look frantically, you know, I used to frantically look for them and then try to find them. And when I did find them, then I'd drive as fast as I could to make up that 5 minutes so I could still be at work an hour early. And then I realized that's crazy. You know, and when you end up finding your keys, they're right in front of you. You just didn't see them. And I later began to realize that was done for a reason. Now, was it my angels? Maybe, I don't know. But what was it that all of a sudden you can't find what you need to find, but when you did find it, 2 minutes later, it's right in front of you? That's another little sign that says, okay, for whatever reason, you're supposed to be 58 minutes early to work, not 60. You know, but I just kind of go with what's been given to me, knowing that there's a reason why I'm supposed to be a little bit slower or take a different route.
Right. I would say this, too, for anybody that wants to be able to listen to their messengers. I think I used to do this. I don't ever remember these things until I talk to people that talk about this stuff. But I used to go on drives and just say, okay, I'm just going to go where you want me to go, like wherever my gut tells me to go. And I don't know what experience I'm going to have. Every time I've done that, I always had some type of, I wouldn't say out of body or profound experience, but I would meet somebody and have a conversation that I needed to have, or I would see something that changed my day, or it was always something good or something that had to happen if I listened to it. So I would do these like homework assignments, trying to prove to myself that spirit was real, or if it was just my head talking to me, you know.
But
pretty
you know
nutty.
what? No, that's perfect. So what you did, my very first message that I received was about a flower, and that we all are flowers of energy. And if we just let the energy flow, there's no blockages, and then we're open to full potential. So you just perfectly described an example of going with the flow. You just get in your car and you drive, and you end up being given a situation, a message, or whatever that has benefit to you that you would not have gotten otherwise. You know, learning to go with the flow without any expectations to the outcome has been so beneficial. Like, I know I'm supposed to do this today, so I'm just going to do it. A friend of mine used to always say, look for the gift. So, for example, if you are, you know, if you're flying somewhere and your flight is canceled and you're very inconvenienced, look for the gift. You know, who do you see that you wouldn't have seen? Who do you sit next to? What happens? But there's guidance there that we don't even recognize. But if we just go with the flow and allow ourselves to step into this divine guidance, then we start realizing, that's the gift. That's who I was supposed to meet.
Right.
You know, I mean, you went on this trip
Journeys, yeah,
that you didn't want to go on, you know, with the going fishing, and you're going to have to, you know, cook your own meal that you catch. And as negative as that was, that you all were stranded out there, look what resulted.
Yeah,
You
I'll
met
never
an angel.
Forget that. Never forget it.
You know,
Yeah,
you
for sure.
met an angel. I bet he had the most beautiful smile in the world.
Oh, yeah, he was happy, man. And I was like, that was one of the things I was thinking, how can this guy be so happy? I know he's catching a lot of fish, but it is hotter than blazes out here, you know? And he's wearing pants. You know, those are the kind of things I remember thinking about, because it was, if he wouldn't have been there, I would have drowned that day for sure.
Yeah. So wait a minute. So he was kind of out of the ordinary, and even in the way he dressed. Why is he wearing long pants?
He looked like something from the 1930s kind of. He was dressed like that kind of, 20s or 30s.
Well.
It was weird for sure. And he laughed and giggled a lot. And every time we would get mad or throw something, he would just watch me and Jeremiah and laugh at us.
And you know what? Laughter is one of those higher vibrational frequencies. You know, I mean, and this is something that I heard from the messengers too, and I think it was even the chapter about the angels talking about smiling. You know, if you go through life and you smile, even if you're not happy, if you smile, within a couple of minutes, that smile becomes genuine, and then it releases endorphins throughout your body, and it helps your entire energy field. Laughter is beautiful medicine.
Yeah, it is, for sure. You know, I got to ask about the crystals that you saw when you saw the black hole type thing, because I know they talk to you about gravity wells, the sun, things like that, stars.
Yeah.
But the crystals, this is one of those things that I've always struggled with, because I guess it's because I grew up around crystals here in Arkansas. They're all over the place, but I never understood people are going to hang me for this, but I never understood their importance, really. Like, what's the big thing about crystals, right? I know everybody's buying them and selling them right now, and I mean, some guy uprooted one here that was worth, I think, like $3.5 million, like a huge cluster of quartz crystal. But what do they do? What are they? Did they tell you anything about them?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny, because everything you're asking me, as you continue to read or listen to the book, you're going to say, "Oh, aha," because I do talk about crystals and some dreams I've had about crystals. But do you remember how the first radio stations were made?
Yeah, it's a little
with
crystal.
With crystals. Crystals amplify energy. Okay, And crystals have different, depending on the type of crystal, whether it's a rose quartz or a hematite or whatever, I don't know enough about which has what, but each crystal has a different type of energy frequency and a different healing frequency. Like some crystals will help ground you, some crystals will help open your heart. I had this dream, and in the dream, I woke up and the ground was covered with huge crystal clusters. Some of them were 6 feet tall. It looked like, Superman's Fortress of Solitude. It looked like that, but they were all different colors. And in the dream, the sun came out, and I looked up at the sun, and there were the sun was shining down, but there were two divergent rays, two very different rays of the sun. And they started shining, those two rays shined on the crystals, and the crystals came to life. If one of them's a ruby or whatever, you could just see it come to life. And I knew in the dream that this crystal was buried deep in the earth, and it was giving Earth specific energies. Whatever energy that specific crystal carried, it was, giving that energy to the earth. And then the next day, still in the dream, I woke up and I, went outside, and the sun had 7 divergent rays. And so, I'm getting all these messages during a dream state. And then the third day I woke up, still in the same dream, and I looked up, and the sun had become a lotus flower with 1,000 petals. And afterwards, I Googled, why was it a lotus flower, and what is it about 1,000 petals? It was so specific in the dream. And, I couldn't believe when I opened it. It's like maybe people who meditate a lot know this or do yoga. I didn't. But that the crown chakra, and of course that's the energy, the energy vortices that we have in our body, but the crown is the one on top of the head, that is often referred to as a 1,000-leafed or 1,000-petaled lotus. And I thought, good grief, how did I know that? I didn't know that. But anyway, I started getting messages after this dream about the earth and how the earth was changing because the earth's rays were different, and they were providing Mother Earth with a different type of vibrational frequency because the earth is going through a transition. It's transitioning to a more higher vibration. And then I got messages that there were star beings or energy systems from different stars that were helping us by giving our sun a different set of energies. So the whole thing about crystals, everything is alive, and so are crystals, but crystals are, I think more and more people are waking up to the beauty of crystals, and they may not realize why they're being drawn to them, but people are looking at them and they're saying, oh, those are really cool, those are really powerful, I really like this color, but they're also giving off some sort of a vibration or a frequency that we connect with, maybe not so much on a physical level, but our energy body does. And I think that's part of the whole transition that Earth is going through and people are going through as well, too. We are transitioning to become beings of higher vibration, and crystals help.
Oh, it's funny that you're talking about that. I know that the pineal gland has been, and I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that I read that it's like a gland, but it's crystalline. almost like a tiny little crystalline gland, and the pineal gland is in your, it's your third eye,
yes.
right? So it would make sense if that's the antenna. And I don't know if you ever heard
my goodness, wouldn't it make sense? I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've ever heard the Hermetic term, as above, so below, right? But I think we do things as humans on a smaller level that are higher cosmic truths. For example, you were telling me earlier before the show that your internet, I was talking about the line and everything. It's a good line, good feed, and you said, well, I'm on a fiber optic line here, right? So that's good. Fiber optics is information that is passed with light. Think about that. So the humans have figured out how to transfer information across the world in a matter of seconds or milliseconds in tubes with light. Well, if that is really happening, I wonder if there's a higher form of information and energy that's being passed through the star systems.
And I think that there is. That makes sense to me. I was, you asked earlier, Joe, whether, I knew who the messengers were. And a lot of times I didn't even ask who they were, but every once in a while, sometimes they would volunteer. And every once in a while I would say, who is this? And I got a message from a group, and they called them, and I said, where are you from? And they said, where we're from is not important, but it is to you. We're from Alpha Centauri. And I'm thinking, Alpha Centauri? I mean, I remember watching Star Trek, and, they would set their coordinates to Alpha Centauri, but it's like, that's Shatner. Like about all, that was like, that was the extent of my knowledge. But this was the group that said, we are giving our sister star, your sun, a different vibrational frequency to change her output so that what she gives to the earth is different, and that tied into, my dream about the crystals. I looked up Alpha Centauri, and I found out that it is the closest star system to us. I had no idea. And then I thought, well, if someone or something is going to change the vibrational frequency of our sun, it would make sense that it would come from the closest one. So I thought, that's interesting. And then Alpha Centauri actually consists of it's a star cluster. I think there's 3 stars. And one of them is 2 or 3 times, I don't remember, but is larger than our sun and more luminous. And then I thought, well, that makes sense too. If they're going to be giving our sun energy, it would make sense that not only is it the closest, but it's larger and more luminous than our sun. And I thought, I couldn't make this up if I tried.
Yeah, right. It makes total sense. This is the kind of stuff that I'm trying to put together, and we've got to take our last break of the night. But the thing of, like I brought up the Rosicrucians earlier, one of the guys told me that alchemy was not, a lot of people look at alchemy as a spiritual or psychological transformation, kind of like the whole Carl Jung thing, right? Mm-hmm. But he said that true alchemy was a very hidden thing that's been taught verbally, handed down, and what it really teaches you is how to spiritually ascend into your solar body, and that's what they call like your lunar body is your dream body, or your etheric body, where you go out of body. But your solar body is when you ascend in consciousness into, I guess, solar awareness, and that's all I was getting from him. And you could travel, instead of just being able to live on planets, you could travel through the stars. And that was the river of life that was talked about in the Bible, that you could take freely, that you were given a new name. The white stone is the Philosopher's Stone, and you could travel through the stars, right? And I was thinking, wow, that sounds so cool. And see, this stuff is, it's just like talking to you. You've never talked to that guy before. I mean, you were just like me, and you're being fed all of this information. It's just incredible. The only thing is yours is super detailed, verbatim in the book. and there are hours of it. When we come back now, I kind of do want to go over like some of the messengers that you talked to, because earlier in the show you had mentioned that, you know, you talked to several different types of messengers, and so maybe just get a few examples of that, and then we only got a few minutes left with you here. I'm having fun. Okay. We'll be right back, guys.
This is Cortana from Shift Happens, telling you to pour a glass and park your ass because you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM. Shithead.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio. Want to know what's on The Fringe FM? Check out our schedule at thefringe.fm.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out! That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Who were the real ancient Egyptians? What is it about ancient Egypt that captivates us all? The critically acclaimed series Magical Egypt is back with all new episodes. Let Chance Gardner and company take you on another adventure through Magical Egypt in the new series Magical Egypt 2. Magical Egypt 2 attempts a forensic reconstruction of the science of the ancients through a study of ancient aesthetics. Also, the best researchers and authors in the field like John Anthony West, Graham Hancock, Laird Scranton, Robert Duval, Lon Duquette, Aaron Cheek, and more join together to explore the topics of the esoteric and the hidden messages of the ancient Egyptians. Just go to magicalegypt.com right now and put in the code word FRINGE and get 10% off any download or order, including the groundbreaking original Magical Egypt series, as well as the new episodes in Magical Egypt 2. Also, check out the great work and the companion series at magicalegypt.com. Click the banner on the Fringe FM or go to magicalegypt.com and use the code word FRINGE and get 10% off your order today while it lasts. Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Frater Xavier's Protection and Defense course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you. The 4 forms of curses and attacks, how to remove self-imposed curses, the correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities, how to make your own holy water, what you should always keep near or under your bed, herbs that banish negativity and promote purity, the most powerful banishing rituals on the planet, and for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
welcome back. Thank you for your patience. We are here with Candice Sanderson. We're discussing her book, The Reluctant Messenger. And actually, let's do this, because we haven't done this all night, Candice. If you can, tell them the full name of the book and how they can find it.
Sure. It's called The Reluctant Messenger, but there's actually at least 2 other books named the same. So the full title is The Reluctant Messenger, Tales from Beyond Belief. And then the subtitle is An Ordinary Person's Extraordinary Journey into the Unknown. You can get it on Amazon. It is available in ebook as well as paperback. It's also available on Audible. And then I just got the hardback, but I haven't actually pushed the publish button on that yet. But the easiest way to get it is through Amazon and or Audible, which is
that's
great.
The way I
love
got
Audible.
It. Yeah, Audible. That's a good way to get it. We've been talking about a lot of things tonight, and I can tell you guys personally, because I've started the book, that the accounts of the visions, or I guess you can say messages, are verbatim, and they're with several types of beings that I still probably haven't talked about yet. And can you tell us the types of beings or people or things that you had interactions with?
Yeah. First of all, when I started getting the messages, I didn't even ask for names like, who are you, what is this? But some of the messengers would volunteer later, and like, for example, the ones that helped me put this book together were the ones who gave me the first messages, and they called themselves the Muses Within, and they said they represent the energies of song, of dance, of art, and that they actually said my book had already been written in their plane of existence, and I was the one who just needed to bring it into this plane. And I thought, okay, give me a little more help here. But actually, I did literally say, give me some help. The first time I sat down to write, I turned on my computer, and I thought, okay, I'm going to write this book, and like nothing happened. And then nothing happened. I thought, great, I've started a task. I've got writer's block. I haven't even tried this for 5 minutes. And then I remembered one of the messages said, get up and take leave. You're putting too much attention on a task, and let the energy flow. So I said, okay, I want a title, and I left my apartment and just started walking. And it came to me, like within a couple minutes, The Reluctant Messenger, Tales from Beyond Belief, An Ordinary Person's Extraordinary Journey into the Unknown. But anyway, they came back quite often through the book. And I could tell them by their lyrical voice, not their voice, because I didn't hear voices, but their lyrical language, I should say. They were just very poetic. Then I had messages from angels. They did not give me specific names. They even told me about different types of angel groups that they had. There were the guardians, etc. But I could tell them because by just the feelings I had, it was just so much love and compassion. And if they gave me a message I was dictating, my voice became very soft and just melodic. It was beautiful. I had messages from star systems, and I didn't always ask about who they were from, but when I did ask, the first time Alpha Centauri, they identified themselves as being from Alpha Centauri. A couple days later, I had more messages from a star system, and what they were telling me, there was like about the cosmos, and they were actually protecting the Earth. And so I asked who they were, and they said they were from Chiron. And I saw the word in my mind, and it was spelled Chiron, but I heard the word with a K, chiron. And I was so amazed, Joe, when after I got the message, I Googled chiron, and it's like, good grief, there really is a star system called Chiron. It's actually, a combination. It's a meteor and comet and kind of a star or something all combined. And a lot of people know about Chiron, but I never heard of them. So that was one of them. After I had the experience at the Church of Spiritual Light, when White Buffalo Calf Woman came in, and it was still months later before I realized she was a legend, and I actually didn't even investigate White Buffalo Calf Woman until I was writing the book, because I was getting such powerful messages that I didn't want to taint any messages that I might get. So I didn't even research her till the book came up. But I also got messages from a spirit that just called himself White Buffalo. And I have one chapter that tells all about those messages. It was very Native American, living on the land and living in harmony with nature, just beautiful messages like that. I had a lot of times the messages would come and I wouldn't even ask who the messengers were. Some of them were familiar and I would ask and it would be Chiron again or it would be the Muses within. But the messages were so profound that I didn't really care who they were from. The words themselves were so important.
What about people that passed on? Did you talk to any of those people? People that lived here and passed away?
Yes, and those things occurred like very early, right after my first message. People came, there were friends that I worked with, and I knew who they were, right away, and they would have messages for their loved ones, and they would always give me some sort of message that would quite often wouldn't make any sense to me, but would make sense to the person receiving the message. For example, one of my friends, her daughter was brutally murdered by her ex, and when she came through to me, when Robin came through to me, she just had, a message saying that she had never left her young children, that she was always with them, and that she actually had forgiven the man who did this to her. And then she said, I know that it's hard for other people to understand that she could do that. But when we were through with the conversation, she said, Mary Ludi. And I thought, what? Did I not hear her right? Mary Ludi. But then I called my friend Lynn, Robin's mom, and, we just sobbed as I told her the story. But when we were through, I said, does Mary Ludi mean anything to you? And she gasped and she said, growing up, her best friend was Mary Lou, and they always called her Ludi. But just that little minor, piece of information told Lynn that the message truly was from her daughter, Robin, and it really legitimized everything else, for her.
Did they talk about what it was like on the other side, or did they just want to did they just had a message for a certain person?
They just had messages, for people. But, I also realized, as I said...
Oh, I lost her. That was weird. Start talking about the other side and we lost her. But let me try to get her back here. We just got a few minutes left, I think. Yeah. So I'm shocked at this. You guys need to get that book, though. You can search it on Amazon. There's a few books called The Reluctant Messenger, but it's the one that has the 3 different titles on it. And I promise you guys, I will leave show notes on the episode. I'm just trying to get her back here. You never know why that happens. It just happens. It's live radio, though. What are you going to do, right? Just a second. Let's see if we can get her back. Well, you fell away for a minute. That's expected. But so we were talking about, what were we talking about? Oh, messages from people that have passed away. They just had messages from a specific person,
right?
For a specific person.
Right. They had messages for, specific people. But during the course of my messages, I actually had met with ascended masters, various ascended masters, in a place that they referred to as the realms of light. And they told me that I could go back to that place at any time. And it's a place of much higher vibration. But this is where the ascended masters live, and they even, live in my air quotes, that there's a transition from normal people like us as they go along a path to enlightenment until they reach the highest level there is, and that ascended masters are just further along on that path than what we are. But they are housed, as lack of a better term, in a certain place called the realms of light. And that's a place I can go and visit. There's so much that I've learned that I realize, no, I haven't stopped and asked people what's it like over there, but I know I can. That's something I should do. I mean, right. Now you've got me fascinated about that.
I want to know what they see or what they're experiencing. It's I'm just curious. I don't want to die, but I'm curious.
Right.
I don't want to die to find out. I'm just curious to see what it's like.
You just want me to find out and tell you.
Yeah, that'd be great. And another question I had too is I've been studying a lot about elements and elementals lately. And in some of the texts I've studied, they talk about, what do they talk about? So earth elementals are called gnomes. And this is just Rosicrucian stuff that I've studied, okay? Salamanders are like fire elementals. And
right.
I think it's sprites or fairies are air elementals. And then water is the undines. Did you hear anything about that?
Well, once again, as you finish my book, you're going to say, "Oh my goodness, we talked about this."
So it's all lining up, perfect. So you did hear something about that?
Yeah, and there, one of the messages talked about that fairies and elementals are going to make themselves known to people. Okay, that they're going to start appearing to people, and I didn't even want to put that in the book. Because I thought, oh, come on, I cannot put that in the book. But, I felt like it was disingenuous not to. So I went ahead and put it in the book. And wouldn't you know, a couple of years later, I was at the Monroe Institute, and I met a lovely lady from Brazil, Fatima. And we were talking at the dinner time, and she told me about a picture that she had of a fairy. Her husband's physician, her physician's husband had gone on to a hunting lodge in Brazil where they lived, and he, didn't hunt, but he took his camera and he took pictures everywhere. When he came home and enlarged his pictures, there was a photo. He had photographed a fairy, and she took a picture of that with her phone. And I really tried to get him to let me put that in the book, and he was going to write his own book, and so he wasn't interested in sharing that. But it brought me back to their message about people will start seeing elementals like gnomes and fairies. And I actually saw a picture of this fairy.
What did it look like? Do you remember?
Can you talk
about
absolutely.
it?
I remember. It was a very wooded area. There was a little pond or water. I couldn't tell. It was just a little lake. But it was like in the fall time because there were some, like yellow and brown, branches and leaves, in the water. There was a great big trunk. It's sinewy, bark, just real rustic. And there was one branch that was reaching out over the water. And on this branch looked like a tiny woman. She had wings that were like clear, and then they faded off to like a light blue at the tips. She had clothes on, just like humans, just like people. She had long brown hair. She looked just like a tiny woman, except she had wings on. It was absolutely amazing.
Are they from another dimension or something? Or or that's weird because they're here from what I'm reading, that they're here, but we just don't see
they
it.
They are here, and they've always been here. Lately I've been studying some shamanic things, and the shamans talk about three different areas, the upper world, the middle world, and the lower world. And the middle world is the world where we live, but quite often it's what they see are the hidden aspects, like the fairies, the all of those elementals, that they are still here, and that they've been here all along. But as and this is the information I'm getting, as Earth transitions and continues her transition to a higher vibratory rate, everything is going to start shifting, and we're going to start experiencing things we've never experienced before.
Wow.
So that veil between the dimensions is fading. There's people like me that all of a sudden I'm getting messages from beyond.
Right.
That was unheard of years before, but it's part of the whole transition.
Well, it's been, I hate that we got to end this, but we do. We've only got like 60 seconds before I got to roll out of here, but you're at CandiceSanderson.com. That's Candice, right?
Yes, Candice.
Yeah, SANDERSON.com. There's the books there. You can get it on Audible. You can get it on Amazon or pre-order it on Amazon. You're also on Twitter and Facebook, right?
Yes, Twitter and Facebook.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been awesome having you on here. I really had fun talking to you tonight, and it was really interesting, and I learned quite a bit.
Well, thank you, Joe. It was an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Now, hang out for me just 1 second. And, guys, we do got to roll out of here. That was Candice Sanderson. Go grab the book. I've got it. Read it with me. You can start the book with me. But I do have to say that, tomorrow night, Pat Fitzhugh is going to be on here. We're going to be talking about the Bell Witch. And this show was produced and syndicated by the Fringe FM and cannot be reproduced or re-syndicated without written permission. And intro music was by Chronox. Guitar Man was by Bundy. And other music was by Space Station and Kevin MacLeod. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Stick around for the Secret Teachings if you're listening live. Good night.